Remember, remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
Hello everyone, and happy 5th of November. Because it is the 5th of November, I thought I would make this rant video about politics, liberty issues, and the state of our country in general. The 5th of November is one of my personal favorite days of the year, and the reason for that is that's really the one day a year where I actually have hope for our country. And then after that, I always come back to my senses and realize that our country is just going to be as crappy as it was before. The reason for that is every single year we let our government take more and more of our individual liberties away from us. Some of the examples of this are, of course, the National Defense Authorization Act and the infamous SOPA and PIPA Acts, the Internet Censorship Bills. Now, most people know about the SOPA and PIPA Acts, but a lot of people don't know about the National Defense Authorization Act. And that, in my opinion, is the scariest thing about it. Not a lot of people know about it. You bring it up to somebody on the street, and chances are they will not have ever heard of it. And that's the scariest thing about this. The National Defense Authorization Act was signed into law on New Year's Eve very, very quietly. And that's the scariest thing about this. Now, for some information about the National Defense Authorization Act. Section 1021 authorizes the President to designate persons as enemy combatants that substantially supported Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or associated forces engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners. Section 1021 is subject to abuse because it applies to vague, substantial support for undefined associated forces. Basically, this bill allows the United States to, for anyone, even United States citizens, for those who are accused of terrorism, they can be detained indefinitely without a trial or a lawyer. Another really frightening thing about this bill is the fact that it was very, very bipartisan. In a case like this, you would expect maybe just Republicans to vote for this, because they're usually the ones who are considered the warmongers. They're the ones that usually vote for things to take away liberties like the Patriot Act. But this received support from both Democrats and Republicans. In the Senate, 45 Democrats voted yes to the bill in the Senate, and 40 Republicans voted yes. Only 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans voted no for this bill in the Senate. I mean, that shows it was very, very bipartisan. As far as the House goes, 93 Democrats voted yes, 190 Republicans voted yes, 93 Democrats voted no, and 43 Republicans voted no. So in the House, more Republicans voted yes for it than Democrats did, but it received pretty bipartisan support. And also, Obama signed it into law. He could have vetoed the bill, and he chose not to. Especially when he promised to. And I'm going to throw this out here right now for honest, liberty-loving Democrats. How can you possibly support somebody like this? Look what he's done. He promised that he would close Guantanamo Bay.
Second point, our legitimacy is reduced when we've got a Guantanamo that is open, when we suspend habeas corpus. Those kinds of things erode our moral claims that we are acting on behalf of broader universal principles, and that's one of the reasons why those kinds of issues are so important. We're going to lead by shutting down Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus in this country so that we offer them an example.
I think that folks made a terrific point that we have to stand for human rights, and that should be part of the trade equation. It is harder for us to do it when we have situations like Guantanamo, where we've suspended habeas corpus. To the extent that we are not being true to our values and our ideals, that sends a negative message to the world, and it gives us less leverage then when we want to deal with countries that are abusing human rights. So I think it's part and parcel with a larger program of us restoring the traditions that made this country great and made us admired around the world.
There are a number of different things that you could do early pertaining to executive orders.
Right.
One of them is to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Another is to change interrogation methods that are used by U.S. troops. Are those things that you plan to take early action on?
Yes. I have said repeatedly that I intend to close Guantanamo, and I will follow through on that. I've said repeatedly that America doesn't torture, and I'm going to make sure that we don't torture. Those are part and parcel of an effort to regain America's moral stature in the world.
What? You promised multiple times back during the primaries that you would close Guantanamo Bay, and they are still not closed. Why? What's the reason for that? You claim that you want to bring America up to a higher moral ground, but we still have not closed Guantanamo Bay. I don't understand that. Also, his promise to get the troops out of Iraq within his first year in office.
I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank.
Really? You promised that if the troops weren't taken out of Iraq by the time you got office, that was going to be the first thing you did? Oh, you know, that's funny because if I remember correctly, the troops weren't taken out of Iraq until the end of last year, 3 years after you were in office. It sure doesn't sound like the first thing to me. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound like the first thing to me. He ended up leaving on Bush's time frame, and everybody hated Bush for the war in Iraq, but Obama left on Bush's time frame, which is not right. He should have left a lot earlier, and he didn't. So that was another broken promise. And then, of course, last, the NDAA. Obama promised that, or at least threatened, that he would veto the National Defense Authorization Act the way it was presented because of the Indefinite Detention Clause. And as we all know now, he did not veto it. All he said was that his administration would not use the Indefinite Detention Clause. But I have to ask, why would he sign it into law otherwise? I'm not saying that he necessarily will use it, but even so, it's not necessary. As a president, if you want to take a moral stand like you said you would, you take a stand and you veto that bill and tell those Congress people that they need to create a regular National Defense Authorization Act that has appropriations for spending for the defense budget, but don't include something so unconstitutional such as that. You took an oath into office as president that you would uphold the Constitution, and you did not. That is an absolute violation of the Constitution. Just gross. So you can see now how I don't understand how honest, liberty-loving Democrats can vote for somebody like this. He's broken every single promise he's made as far as individual liberties goes and social justice and equality. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I'm not saying Republicans are any better than Democrats, because the Patriot Act was made into law under President Bush's watch. He could have vetoed it, and again, he didn't. But at least with Republicans, people generally assume that they aren't going to be against something that takes away our civil liberties. And in a case like with Obama, he promised he would uphold our civil liberties and things that we wanted, such as getting out of Iraq earlier, closing Guantanamo Bay, but he did not do any of those things that he promised. And that's the disappointing thing about this. Right now, we don't have any politicians who are for the people, who are for our civil individual liberties. And that's a travesty, in my opinion. Why is that? Why does it seem like there are so few politicians who can legitimately say that they want to uphold our civil liberties and our individual rights and our constitutional rights? Why does it seem like there are so few who can honestly say that they held true to their promise to uphold the Constitution when they took their oath to office? Not many people can. So, and why is that? Honestly, it's because I think they can get away with it. Our public does not care. They don't know about the issues, and that's an issue. Honestly, I think we need a revolution. And I'm not talking about blowing up a building like in V for Vendetta. I'm talking about a peaceful, intellectual revolution. We don't need to be rioting in the streets to make a difference. We just need to be informed and making our vote count, not voting for the same people who will take away our individual liberties year after year after year, but somebody who will honestly uphold the Constitution, uphold our rights as citizens of the United States of America, and not take them away year after year. Unfortunately, I know the truth that that will not happen. People will continue to not care or not be informed about the issues, even though I think the majority of people would not agree with a lot of the things that the government is doing right now. I think that people will continue to vote for the same two-party candidates, which are pretty much the same party, who will both continue to take away our civil liberties. And this is why I like the 5th of November, but I also don't like it. I like it because for this one day, I actually have hope for our country. And then soon I will come to my senses, and I will realize that as a citizen of this country, for the rest of my life, I will slowly watch my government take away my rights year after year, year after year, until the day I die. And unless there's an intellectual revolution and people start to care about these issues that affect them, then this will continue to happen, and there is absolutely nothing I can do about it.